Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining our webinar this morning. My name is Israel from asmag.com, and I welcome all of you to our panel discussion on cloud technology in the security industry. We will be sending you a recording of this webinar in the coming days, so you will have a chance to revisit it again. And also, if you registered but have to leave in the middle, you can see the recording of what you missed. And we will have a Q&A session with the panelists in the end. So if you have any questions during the discussion, you can send them to us using the chat box on the right-hand side, and in the end, we will discuss them with the panelists. So cloud technology in the security industry is not new. It is something that has been discussed over the past few years. But in the last year and a half, ever since the COVID pandemic started, there has been a big boost to video surveillance as a service, to access control as a service, because of the need for remote monitoring and remote control. The lockdowns, the lack of the physical ability to reach places pushed people to adopt cloud more and more. And for our publication, it was very interesting, and we wanted to ask our readers how they see cloud technology and what they feel about cloud technology in the security industry. So we chose a group of channel players, distributors, integrators, manufacturers, and users from our subscribers, the people that are subscribed to our weekly newsletter, and we asked them a set of questions about cloud technology. After cleaning the data, we got 147 total respondents from all over the world. This readership is representative of asmag.com's readership. Most of it is in Asia. Then we got from EMEA and a little bit from the Americas. And we try to derive the insights about how they see cloud in security from their responses. And to discuss these results today, we have a panel of 4 industry representatives. And I'm happy to invite, first is Mr. Ian Law. Ian is based in Australia, and he is the Business Development Director for Asia Pacific in Alarm.com, a company that offers alarm monitoring, access control, video surveillance through the cloud. So Alarm.com is a true cloud provider. Yes, 100% cloud. We have Joey Lin joining us from Taiwan. Joey is responsible for all the surveillance grade storage products from Micron technology. So he will give us his point of view regarding storage and how we can include it and how it should be included in cloud deployments. We have Mr. Rishi Lodhia joining us from Amsterdam. For him, it's a very early morning. He joined the 5 a.m. club just to join this webinar. Rishi is a Vice President in Eagle Eye Networks and the Managing Director of Eagle Eye Networks and also Drivo Access Control, right?
Yep.
In EMEA, and you've been involved in cloud video surveillance for about 20 years now, right? Since your first startup company.
Yeah.
Yes, so it's good to have such insights and perspective from you. And last but not least, Lee Shelford from Genetec. He's the Sales Engineering Manager for Asia Pacific, joining us also from Australia. Okay, so good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us. And the first talking point that we will discuss is adoption of cloud in security. So when we asked our readers, have they already deployed a cloud project for their clients, 42% answered that yes, we're already doing cloud projects for our clients. And when we asked them to estimate in the coming year, next year, how much will it grow, they estimate that the scope of cloud projects will increase 7 to 10%. So the first question goes to Ian. Alarm.com being a pure cloud provider, do you agree with this growth secure with this growth projection? What do you see in your business? Like, is 10% a year something reasonable? And looking down the road, what will be the ratio? Like in 5 years' time, will we be 100% cloud everybody, or 60-40, 50-50?
Yeah.
Who is adopting cloud the most?
Yeah. Thanks, Israel. Love to see everyone. Thanks for joining. So yeah, great question. Alarm.com, I guess we started in the year 2000. So from day one, we've been a cloud provider, listed on the ASX in 2016. So essentially the short answer is yes, we do agree, and we will see the cloud growth continue into the future. Alarm.com is written on the back of that, I guess. But I'd also like to point out that there's been a shift in other markets that's kind of been helping the adoption. So things like IT subscriptions to your operating systems, Dropbox, OneDrive, even things like internet banking. So anecdotally, like 5 years ago when I started in Australia and we were pushing the interactive services through the first app for the security industry here, people were asking, like, you know, the initial reaction was, why would I need an app? Why not just use the keypad? And so we're seeing this paradigm shift in terms of people's expectations. And so the cloud then provides the ability for providers to through our integrators to provide extra services and functionality, convenience, control, and awareness to a customer's system. Now, that could be a residential customer, it could be a commercial business. So we do see the growth, and we continue to see it. I mean, you'll see that on our public information that's available through the NASDAQ. But also too, there's some other sort of advantages that the cloud can provide that you won't necessarily get through a standalone system in terms of talking security here. So things like geo services, which, you know, aggregated data from your mobile devices and then using that in a smarter way. We have another feature, I won't go into too much detail, but it's called crash and smash. And so that's essentially using some smarts from the cloud to allow when someone's got to the panel and damaged it, basically. So there is some added functionality that can be provided from, you know, cloud services as well. In terms of adoption, from Alarm.com's perspective, we sort of started in the residential market. We've had great growth in that area, and then as the products and services grew, we were able to move and offer more commercially oriented sort of services as well. So I talk about sort of security as a service, video as a service, and access control. They're all sort of providing a service to the customer, and so that's the advantage of the cloud system. And so we see a growth in sort of commercial from our side because we've got new products and new solutions and stuff, but we've got a very good and healthy business in residential. So essentially, we'll see the growth in both markets to continue, and that will come down to, like, how it will look in the future will come down to what's the value proposition that we can provide to customers. We're all the same, doesn't matter what country we live in, we all want to see value in what we buy. So to continue to offer value to the customers through our integrators, that's where we're going to see continued growth. So I think it's good for the businesses to have that recurring revenue stream as well. So, you know, even through the COVID situation, the pandemic situation now, having that recurring revenue stream coming in while still be able to provide services to your customers is key. So.
I see. Good. Lee, I think that Genetec did a very big survey of security end users a while ago, and you also asked about cloud. So from your client base, how do you see the adoption of cloud growing? How fast is it growing? Looking down the road 5 years, do you think that we will be 100% cloud or still not?
There we go. Sorry, the mute button wouldn't come off. No, exactly. So we try to obviously poll and get as much information from our global customer base, our partners, our technology partners, every few years. And the last time we did this was in 2020, and we called it the State Physical Security Survey. And we actually found that nearly 40% of respondents stated that they were currently in the process of moving to the cloud or were actually about to move in that direction. So 40% of quite a few thousand people that we actually polled said they were already there or going there imminently. And in addition, and quite interestingly, 31% of those respondents actually stated that the pandemic has either triggered or accelerated this move to the cloud. So we've definitely seen a lot of growth over the last 18 months, and a lot of that has actually been derived from the pandemic and the benefits of moving to the cloud during these weird and wonderful times.
I see. Okay, so the next question that we asked our readers is their predictions for the future, and we divided it into video surveillance and access control. And here we saw something very interesting. People are more open to adopting video surveillance as a service, cloud video surveillance, compared to access control. So 45% say that they will do cloud video surveillance, and only 31% say that they will not install one. But when it comes to access control, more people, 38% say that they will not opt for access control as a service, and only 34% say that they will. So Lee, Genetec offers both video surveillance and access control. Why do you think that access control is behind video surveillance? Why is this still missing to make cloud access control a viable option and a convincing one?
Yeah, no, exactly. And we're not actually seeing that. Obviously, historically, in the years past, yes, more people were comfortable with putting their video in the cloud and using video surveillance as a service than their access control. But our growth numbers in our access control of a service, especially over the last few years, are actually showing that we're actually keeping up and accelerating at the same kind of level with video surveillance as a service, as is our license plate as a service, our Sipilia, which is our SIP intercom, our communications management as a service solutions. We're all seeing steady growth across all of the cloud portfolio. But we've obviously overcome some of the key challenges, especially around the access control, that could obviously be skewing that number in other areas. The biggest one is obviously connectivity, and everything that we do with the cloud is obviously down to connectivity. If you've got a hardware VPN, for example, to connect you to the cloud, it can be considered obviously cumbersome and possibly a single point of failure or whatever. And obviously making sure that the access control doors, if that connection is dropped, are still working. The last thing you want is people locked in a building or locked out of a building if your internet or your connection to the cloud actually goes down. So having, we call it the Synergist Cloud Link, but having a gateway device actually on premise to facilitate a secure connection to the cloud, get rid of that need for that hardware VPN as well. So everything that's going to the cloud is still secure, but you haven't got that cumbersome hardware VPN in place. And also the self-redundancy and the ability to operate as normal if your cloud connection is dropped. So people can still badge in and badge out. They've still got their access rights in place. Obviously, you can't add any new people or remove people while that cloud connection is down. But it still gives them operation of their system. And historically as well, it comes down to the installers and the dealers for access control not quite being as comfortable or as ready to make that shift to the cloud. So that's what we've seen in the past with obviously access control. But like I said, and some of those numbers from obviously yourself and our polls have shown that the growth, especially over the last 18 months, in all of our cloud service, not just video surveillance, but access control and everything else, that paradigm shift is actually changing, and people are more comfortable now with obviously putting all of their access rules and everything into the cloud.
Thank you. Rishi, Brivo, you're dabbling in both sides. In Brivo is for access control and also Eagle Eye for cloud video surveillance. Do you see also cloud access control is lagging behind cloud video surveillance?
No, not at all. I think both, if you look at both questions, they're both probably wrong. We see that access control is accelerating very fast. In the last 5 years, I think the total addressable market has grown 10x for access control in the cloud. So that's really been accelerated. And I also don't think that the cloud access control doesn't have a convincing offer at the moment. As Lee said, taking away VPN issues, taking away cybersecurity issues, with the nature of cloud, you have so many new opportunities. So what we see is a huge opportunity in terms of interoperability with cloud access control, and also in combination with cloud video. You see a much more compelling offer to the market and to the end users, right? So what we are seeing happening is that more and more customers want a smart building offering, and in that smart building offering, more and more solutions need to be integrated, right? So you need to connect a cloud HRM system, you need to integrate a cloud visitor management system. There's a tenant experience platform that you need to be integrating with. So how would you do that across multi-sites? It will be very difficult. So with cloud, with the REST API, it's very easy to integrate these kind of systems. And what we're also seeing is, I mean, I've been in cloud security for almost 20 years. When I started Camera Manager, world's first video surveillance platform in the cloud, we saw that in the beginning, the customers were afraid of cloud. But now, I mean, almost 20 years later, all their business applications are already in the cloud. So why is then you know, the cloud access or the cloud video not in the cloud? I think this is one of the last business IT applications that is moving to the cloud. So all the CIOs that are now becoming responsible for effectively the security, right? They are saying, okay, we also want that into the cloud. If you think about identity management, you know, integrations with Okta or G Suite or Active Directory, it's becoming super compelling. And also with the move of mobile first, with COVID coming up, already been there. so we've seen that, you know, people don't want to have physical passes and don't want to touch things anymore. So with frictionless access, people moving into buildings, right? You see a great acceleration there. So yeah.
Good, thank you. So the next question that we wanted to ask our readers was to gain a better understanding of the landscape of who are the players in cloud security, and we asked which cloud provider, which cloud security company comes first to your mind. And this was an open question. We didn't give multiple choices to choose which companies you know, and it was very revealing to see that most people, 33%, said no one in particular. And the second one came Hikvision, which makes sense. It's the world's largest camera manufacturer. Then Amazon Web Services, which is the world's largest cloud provider, but they don't do security per se. So it also is an indicator people are not so familiar who is doing a cloud or who is also doing cloud and doing regular. And congratulations to Eagle Eye Networks, the first one, the first true cloud company that came in the survey. So Rishi, if you can share with us your advice. If I am a channel player and I am considering switching to the cloud, when is a good time to switch? Who can benefit the most? What type of client can choose cloud and benefit the most?
Well, I mean, in general, I think cloud is the right choice for everybody, right? Businesses are moving all systems to the cloud, right? ERP, email, CRM, it's already actually moved, right? So one of the last IT business applications is security that is moving to the cloud, right? So effectively, the ubiquity of cloud will only increase with time. So we'll see that video surveillance will be another cloud-based subscription service. So you're seeing that obviously for multi-sites, cloud will be the answer, or is actually the answer. Already Lee said it, right? And taking away all kinds of hassle with VPNs and updates and upgrades. Many enterprise customers that currently have spinning disks operating across the globe, for them it will be much easier to go for cloud. And also, if you see with compliance issues, right? How can you cyber secure your on-premise systems? We're seeing for compliance is going to be much more interesting. So think about retail, but also logistics, multifamily housing, healthcare. right? With increasing compliance matters, cloud would be the right. So I think it's the right time to consider at the moment, also for resellers and integrators. At the moment, there's a huge issue. I mean, there's more vacancies than people who can work in the security industry. So there's many technicians needed. So we believe with cloud, the integrators can also serve much broader customer group. So with the automation, they will be able to perform much easier in the field, right? So they will need less technicians for more customers. And again, the total addressable market is going to explode. And as Ian also said earlier, there's going to be much more usage of cloud video and cloud access than only security, right? In smart buildings, you will have so much more opportunity. So for the security industry today to go into this market, it will increase their total addressable market also.
That's a very good point about the centralized management. And when we asked the readers what do they see as the key benefits of cloud, this definitely came in number one. So 63%, 2/3, yes, 2 out of 3 people, they appreciate the fact that you can centralize in a centralized way, control everything, push updates. You don't have to individually go and update workstations. And the second place was cloud storage, which was seen as a major benefit. And for this, I'd like to approach Joey. Storing 100% of the video footage on the cloud can be very, very expensive for high camera counts, and depending also on the retention time, how long you want to store it in the cloud. So is there a good solution for high camera counts, or what is the best way that you recommend?
Sure. I would like to clarify the statement of cloud storage is very expensive. In fact, the key factor is not the cost of storing data into the cloud, but it could be the cost of data transmission. I mean, the Ethernet connection for uploading data into the cloud, especially users have to consider a higher upload bandwidth compared with home Ethernet environments. So a hybrid vSaaS model could be the good option for user to consider. You can utilize the capacity of on-premise storage to reduce the network bandwidth consumption, as well as for better system reliabilities by incorporating with cloud storage capabilities to for redundancy or extended storage retention requirements. For example, you can store 30 days data in the edge and 6 month data in the cloud. In terms of the on-premise storage, by 3D NAND technology innovations, today, the maximum capacity of a micro SD card is up to 1 terabyte capacity, which means that you can store 90 days of high quality video footage in IP camera with edge storage. So by enabling in-camera edge storage for the hybrid vSaaS model, user is not only reducing the cost of data transmission, but also they can reduce the cost of additional on-site equipments or installation, for example, like the on-site recorders. So of course, user can still enjoy the beauty of using the cloud surveillance for their project with in-camera edge storage for better cost structure. So that's my 2 cents.
I see. So your recommendation is a hybrid approach where you store on the edge, you can store up to 90 days of video storage, and you send to the cloud only what's important. Or how do you choose what to send to the cloud? Maybe Lee in Genetec, what kind of solutions do you have?
There we go, on mute. Yeah, no, exactly. And I think the biggest thing to again accelerate and give the confidence of cloud to people is firstly freedom of choice and flexibility. The cameras that are used are industry standard, the same as obviously the access control hardware or those SIP intercoms. They all use a standard protocol. The customer can vote month by month if they still want to use the cloud or bring everything back on premise or whatever. But the biggest thing that we're seeing is obviously the freedom of choice in how much they do on premise versus how much they do on the cloud. And what I mean by that is if they've invested in existing hardware, they don't want to throw that investment away, but they want to start gradually moving to the cloud. So let's obviously leverage that hybrid approach, use their existing hardware to record still on the cloud, and then either in tandem or after a longer retention period, then we can send the video up into the cloud as well. So they've got that extra level of redundancy. The other side of this as well is everything going into the cloud. So we can remove that gateway or that on-premise device and just have the camera streaming directly to the cloud, reducing the cost and making it as cost-effective as possible for people to make that first step in proper video surveillance in the cloud and just have a camera streaming directly to the cloud. And then the other side of this as well is obviously once we get to the cloud, having different tiered storage levels. So having that high performance tier 1, and then after 30 days, maybe we reduce it down to a lower performing but more cost effective storage in the cloud. And obviously that rehydration of video is transparent to the customer and the operator. So when they pull back, they don't know it's coming from the lower tiered storage or the higher performing storage. It's all just presented to them as they record the video. So again, it's really down to being flexible, having this not all or nothing approach, having this hybrid capability, and also giving the customer that freedom of choice.
Thank you.
So maybe I can add something to that also, Israel.
Please.
So what we see that in many of our customer scenarios, and we've got obviously hundreds of thousands of customers, and what we've seen that, you know, actually we've proven that many of these customers have a lower TCO than traditional on-prem VMS systems, where you see that, you know, if you want to have a high camera count on site, and that most of the time systems are over-dimensioned, right, oversized, and they're not proven also scalable. So if it's not oversized, that's also a problem, because when you want to add a few cameras, you all of a sudden need to add a server, you need to add all kinds of software locally, and it's becoming quite difficult then and cumbersome. So those costs are sometimes not mentioned, right? And also, if you want to have triple redundancy, if you want to have the cybersecurity on site, so in the cloud, effectively, when you store the video, you know, cybersecurity experts will take care of it. There's a 24/7 look on the storage. There's redundancy there. So that makes sense, right? And also what we see is with Eagle Eye's platform at the moment, with a high camera count, we try to store the video on our bridges and then send it to the cloud with efficient and intelligent bandwidth management, right? So we all as cloud providers, I think, are working on that, right? To have a hybrid approach, but also a full cloud approach. I mean, eventually you want to have that video in the cloud to do smart things on it, right? So what says, is it expensive, right? Eventually, when you want to do more things than just store video and playback video, right? You want to run AI over it, right? To have more things done than only security purposes. Then, yeah, you really want to have that video into the cloud, right? So gives much more possibilities.
You raised an interesting point about cybersecurity, and indeed, most of the companies that offer video surveillance as a service, they say we are more cyber secure because we have a team of experts that manage data center level cybersecurity, and it is better than what you can get with your own NVR. However, when we ask our readers, we see that most of them are concerned about cybersecurity, and they do not see cybersecurity on the cloud as an advantage. And what they're most concerned about is giving a third party, somebody I don't know, and I don't know where it is and who has access to it, control over my sensitive video footage or access control logs or whatever. So this is a question that like to ask you, Rishi, and later on Ian, as true cloud companies that are both true cloud providers, how do you deal with this objection from clients? How do you address their security concerns? How, if I want to buy Eagle Eye, how do I know that you don't have somebody with a super admin password that will go over all my files?
Yeah, so I mean, this is an interesting question, Israel. So I mean, what we're seeing is that effectively cybersecurity is not something that is, you know, solely an issue for manufacturers, right? So physical security systems must really be set up and maintained correctly so that cybersecurity is taken into consideration before, during, and after installation, right? So what we see is that there are two areas that you need to pay attention to for cybersecurity. I mean, obviously the technical risks and the employee behavior. So on the technical side, you must be afraid that, you know, bad actors are trying to get into your platform for, you know, steal your data or for ransomware. So you know, these problems can be solved with layered defensive strategies that might consist of consistent security scans, audits by security professionals, as you mentioned, and security teams that, you know, perform black box kind of penetration testing. So I think if you have your own system, you know, do you have your security experts 24/7 looking at it, right? So you don't. And that's also with other IT systems.
But that system, if we take, for example, an NVR, it was designed for playing video and is not as easy to hack into. Like, if you maintain all the right definitions and the right work protocols, it's not something that an opportunity, like, if you know that there's a backdoor, you will use it. But otherwise, it's not that easy to hack into an NVR, let alone an NVR that is on site and is not connected to the network.
Well, Israel, if you go back to real CCTV, right? So closed circuit television, when you really take it off the network, but that's not the case anymore. Right, so at the moment the world is that people want to integrate it. They want to integrate the video to access control. They want to integrate it to other systems. So interoperability is already there. They want to see the NVR on mobile phones or somewhere else, or going to monitoring centers. So that story is already gone. If you really have CCTV, yes, then you're secure. That's real CCTV is the most secure thing on the planet. But I think we're past that, right? So and coming back to the other thing, you know, the second threat, which is, you know, the factor is employee. Obviously, yeah. So I think the cloud providers that are sitting here, but also us as Eagle Eye, we're taking all the right measures, all the right precautions, and obviously there's been you know, a recent high-profile issue, hack with the newcomer to video surveillance. Obviously, we all need to. That reminds us all that we really, as cloud providers, need to be diligent on our processes, and yeah, for a customer to trust a provider, you need to prove that you're a player that has been having a good track record. So I think with Eagle Eye and me also being 20 years in the business, our CEO Dean Draco being the founder of Barracuda, and Eagle Eye, you know, already having hundreds of thousands of customers, we have that track record, and I think that's important. That really end users and security integrators have to choose the provider with which they feel comfortable, right? That's going to be the change. You know, do you trust the security provider more than yourself? And that's up to the industry to prove that they can, you know, they can live up to the trust.
Ian, Alarm.com's product mix is a little bit different, but what do you see in your line of business? What are the feedback from customers? Are they afraid about having, like, you do home monitoring, for example, in residential? How I would be scared that somebody is, you know, like, peeping in on my kids when I'm not at home. Is that a concern that you get from clients?
Absolutely. It's one of the biggest ones, in fact. As soon as you put a camera inside your house, the very first reaction you get from somebody is, who can see my video? And so there's, I mean, if you think about things like your internet banking app nowadays, where you got two-factor authentication, so that's built into our app. So there's other layers of steps you can take to protect access to your system, right? So there's sort of that side of it. VPNs for end-to-end encryption of all the data. So every camera that's transmitting over the internet from our perspective is fully encrypted. One of the biggest challenges is like you alluded to earlier, and what Rishi was saying was demonstrating to our partners what steps and what certifications and how much energy and effort we put into maintaining the cloud and securing it. And Rishi's right, we do have a lot of people on our team that's their job, that's all they do. They eat, live and breathe network security. So I would rather put my system in their hands than try to have someone doing it on site that's not doing it 100% of the time. So there are things like what Rishi said, penetration testing, end-to-end testing, third-party testing of the cloud that gets done, and those reports are done on behalf of people that are operating the cloud. So I guess there is some more sort of industry bodies and industry standards that you can look for certifications wise, and things like protecting privacy of data, GDPR, for example, in the European Union. So partners that go to that level of being able to meet all these standards and have those regular audits and done, I think that's a great indicator of a partner that you should partner with. But I'd like to just talk about, Rishi mentioned that traditional CCTV that was taken totally offline is absolutely the most secure system, but you don't get a lot of the advantages that you're going to get with the cloud. Meaning, if we take an access control door, instead of just having a budget and the door unlocks and you don't know who comes through, you can then add a camera. The access control system can trigger the camera to record, send a clip into the cloud, and push it to a customer's phone. So you get all that extra information as a consumer on what's happening in your business, so you know who's coming and going. So having that extra sort of integration and those things all talking together, and this is what we all sort of strive to achieve, I think, to offer these value services to our customers through our integrators. So you got to sort of weigh up whether the customer wants all these features, but if you want to absolutely secure it, you take it off the grid, you're not going to get it. So yeah, it's a tough one, and it's something that we all have to work towards and have discussions with our partners that this is what we do to sort of secure everything. So it's definitely always an ongoing question, and it's always one of the first questions we get asked.
I see. Good. So the number one concern in our survey before cybersecurity, the number one concern was price. And one of the questions that we asked our respondents is, how much are you willing to pay for a cloud video solution? And again, for us, was very revealing to see that they all wanted to be, the vast majority expects it to be cheap, even very cheap. So we asked, how much are you willing to pay in USD per camera per year? And you can see that 2/3 want to pay less than $50 a year. And I understand that, because in the past few years, more than few years, in the past decade or so, there's been a commoditization of the hardware of cameras. And today you can buy a camera for less than $100, a 2-megapixel camera, maybe not top of the line, but good enough for most applications, for less than $100, and it stays with you forever. You don't have to pay for it every year. Now, so on the one hand side, camera prices, NVR prices are dropping, and with them, margins are dropping for distributors, installers, integrators. And then comes cloud, and with it, the promise of recurring monthly revenue, that you will continue making money as long as you have paying clients. So from my discussions with channel players, with integrators, they see cloud as a good opportunity for them to increase their margins and switch from a one-time revenue model to a recurring revenue model. So how do we reconcile people's expectation to pay as little as possible and channel players' expectation to keep making money year on year from the same project? So do you think that cloud is a good business model for integrators, and can it successfully replace that existing business models? Maybe we start with you, Lee.
Yeah, 100%. So you hit the key word there, reoccurring. It reduces the risk for our installers, our dealers. They're not having to go out and obviously fish for new opportunities to that extent, because they've got the reoccurring revenue coming in every month or annually based on their existing customer base. So it's a lot of safer bet for them as well. They know and they can bank on what reoccurring revenue is coming back in. Rishi also hit the nail on the head. Good techs, especially in Australia, as most of the rest of the world at the moment, good techs are few and far between and very hard to come by for our installers. So if we can have those techs focusing on obviously installing the cameras and everything else, and leaving the stuff like the virtualization, the backup in triplicate, the cyber security, and all that kind of stuff that really is the bread and butter of these mega data centers and obviously these IT gurus, then obviously the SIs can focus on exactly what really makes them the most money, and that's getting the techs out and installing hardware. So yeah, with the reoccurring revenue, with the shortage of good techs out there, and especially the ones that have the ability to evolve to being a VCP and VMware guru, or obviously a storage guru, or everything else in between with the network as well, we can really focus in on getting the cameras set up, the quality of those cameras installed in the right places, and obviously focused and not behind signs, as you've seen sometimes. God forbid who obviously was going to put a camera up behind a sign or in a position that it could be blocked. But yeah, really for us, the cloud is a great and progressive business model for our installers going forward.
Rishi?
Yeah, so yeah, as Lee also said, I mean, and we touched it just before, effectively, the fact that you have, simplified installation and maintenance is intrinsic to cloud, right? So the fact that the management of the system is totally centralized, the reseller can gain much greater visibility into the system's performance, health, while the installer and the integrator can really look at value-added services, right? So offering so much more value-added services than only just focusing on that installation. That's super valuable. I mean, we're seeing that even during the pandemic, and the fact that the installers couldn't always go on site, all of a sudden from a distance they could give added value, right? So for instance, in our platform, you can turn camera tampering on. So just before even a customer knew that a camera was tampered, the integrator with a value-added service could say, hey, our AI is flagging that this camera is tampered, and they don't even have to look on the camera itself. They don't have to go on site. But the platform identifies it in the dashboard of the reseller, and then the customer is notified. So in that way, you create with these kind of small added value services, you can create much more trusted partnership. And we've obviously seen it in IT business applications, where the customer and the reseller relationship is constantly challenged. Okay, what can we offer more? What can we do more than just we've installed one system and bye-bye, right? So with this recurring revenue partnership, it's not only that the reseller gets money every month or every year, it's also that ongoing partnership where you can really say, okay, what can we do more? Or what can we offer more? Because also a cloud platform is evolving, right? There's new features coming up. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, our customer base, sometimes somebody has a 30-day recording retention time with their cloud subscription. All of a sudden they say, okay, we need 60-day now because of compliance, or we need something else. So you can constantly go back, right? You can keep on adding features, right? And also adding add-on subscriptions. So I think it's a no-brainer, this kind of model for integrators, but also giving so much added value for end users, and they're starting to see that now.
So Ian, a final question for you before we go to the Q&A from the audience. How do you see the role of the integrator changing when working with the cloud? Today, an integrator has the first installation and then later on has maintenance and any upgrades that are needed. But now if we're talking about moving to a recurring monthly revenue model and they need to provide add-on services and they need to, and it gives them the opportunity to stay in touch with the client continuously, how will their role change? What kind of new skills do they need to develop? What kind of new services do you see them offering, or do you think that integrators should offer to be successful? Will it change, for example, an integrator to becoming a monitoring company, or not? How do you see that?
Yeah, I don't see it changing in a massive way, in that you can't be jack of all trades, master of none. So I think our integrator partners know that they're providing a service to an end customer, okay, and that's going to be security, video, automation in some way, shape, or form. So they choose a partner to deliver those services. So if I took an example of some of the advantages, is that, like for example, if they have existing customers, they've got the platform in the cloud, having remote access to these devices, for example, that's secure, can actually lead to reduced truck rolls. So then technicians aren't out wasting time driving 2 hours to go see a customer if there's a fault and going to fix it. Sometimes they can fix it remotely. So there's a lot of advantages that can be had by adopting, a chosen platform. And so it then allows them to focus more on the front end, focus with the customer. So the whole thing around sort of service and maintenance it's been around for a long time. But if you think about how we've changed with interactive security or video, so now a customer, if it's in your home and you then receive a video, you're not only thinking about just securing that premise. So our partners now are thinking, what other information can we provide to that customer, or what other piece of information is going to make them more aware or connected to their property? Now, that could be a residence or a business. So the simple fact of receiving a push notification to your phone of perhaps your son or your daughter arriving home from school, now that's not a traditional way of thinking about security, but it's information that's valuable to that customer, right? So you have then provided that, and so you provided value to that customer of yours. And those sorts of examples that can continue onwards as we release new, products and features and services. We've got things like advanced analytics in the cloud where it can do unexpected activity alerts. And you might not think that that's groundbreaking, but for someone out there, it's going to be important. And so I think at the end of the day, the way that technology changes so quickly, it's very hard to keep up with. I mean, a lot of our installers are having to constantly train and keep up to date, and so you can't spread yourself too thin, right? So being able to focus in with some key partners, I think, will be the way of the future.
Okay, good. Okay, so before we finish, we have some, yes.
Can I have one comment on this question? Okay.
Yes.
So I would like to provide some inputs about from end user perspective. For not only for the integrators or solution provider, actually you can bring more value to your customers by reduce their cost. Because now the investment of the security system, not only from conventional security system, is more like the capital expenditure. But now if you using the VSaaS model, I mean this type of pay as you go, you can transfer this type of capital expenditure model into operating expense, which means that you don't have to pay a lot of upfront fee, but you can pay more like the service subscription fee, and this will be considered as a OPEX, means that you can save the tax. I mean, for the business owner, the worldwide corporate tax rate is about 23%, so means that the business owner actually can save lots of the spending in terms of this type of investment into security systems. So that's my comment.
Yes, that's also a very good point. Yes. Okay, so we're about to finish. We have a few questions that came in from the audience. So let me just take a look. This is a good one. Will cameras stop working if the subscription ends? Is it possible to move between vendors? So Rishi, maybe you will be the first one to answer this question.
So we have an agnostic platform. So we support thousands of cameras and all major brands, even smaller brands of cameras. So our belief is that we're not in a lockup strategy, right? So we really believe that we must prove every day that we're the best security provider. We offer the best solution. So that's also the cool part of the recurring revenue model. So yes, there is a possibility for customers to move over to another service provider. That's also our true belief there. So if somebody installs,
so practically speaking, for that, what do they need to do? I mean, like, you replace what kind of hardware component for that, or how easy is it to switch?
Obviously, I mean, what happens is we can also take over on-premise systems, for instance. If already cameras are installed with an appliance that we have, we can connect the current cameras and stream that up to the cloud. So that's already easy. But also, what we're seeing is that there's so much integrations happening with our platform. So we become part of that business process operation. That's more of a thing, right? People are becoming so used to it that the switching cost is more difficult. But on the other side, yes, we are. It's possible to connect cameras to another cloud provider. I mean, our appliance that's on site, our bridge, you can replace it by something else. So again, we believe that it has to be open, so it's not that difficult. And that's also what we tell our customers. It doesn't mean that you're locked in. We as cloud providers to continuously offer that service, right? But again, as your iPhone, you're getting used to it. So for integrators choosing for a cloud provider and then giving that to their end users, right? As soon as you get more integrations, right, with your Okta or your G Suite and integrations with, for instance, an integration with Brevo and Eagle Eye and other integrators, it's becoming more difficult. But again, if a customer wants to, an end user, you should be able to switch them.
Okay.
Yeah, I can add to that as well. Really, the customers should have the freedom of choice there. They should have the right to vote every month or every year on if they want to continue with that cloud vendor or they want to go somewhere else. It's the same with your cellular provider, right? There's nothing stopping me from switching from Telstra to Optus. I just cancel my subscription, I get a new SIM card, and I'm good to go. That should be the way that obviously proper vendors do business, not the golden handcuffs as we call it, and locking people in because it's proprietary hardware or whatever. It should really be freedom of choice as well with access control as well as everything else, and it should be down to the customer, and it should be easy for the customer to change. That's how we're going to get confidence.
The major difference with the cell phone is that I would say that the cell phone is still an on-prem solution, meaning you still have all your contacts, all your pictures, everything. If you want to move from Telstra to another one, and suddenly they say, okay, but if you want your list of contacts, you need to pay me another $250 to release that list to you, then it's a different, then it's a different consideration. Yeah. So the risk of the switching cost, that is what this question is concerned again. So the question for the end user is how, if one day I want to switch for whatever reason, what will be the risks for me involved? We have time for one more question. Before,
maybe I can answer one more thing, Israel, on that.
Yes.
I love this question actually. So the fact, imagine you would be investing, a huge capex number in an on-premise system. At the moment when you're investing in an OPEX service, right? Probably that cost is so much less to switch over. So I don't believe that any of the providers here are thinking about that. I think, and the end user is also seeing that investing heavily, in a local system and sunk that cost. That's a disinvestment. Effectively, when you're with a service provider, you do have the choice, right? And if you're a good service provider, and we did it with Eagle Eye. We have monthly services that you can turn off as a customer. We're not locking anybody in, right? The data is the customers. So, and also the cameras. Yeah, we don't have any opportunities to block that down.
Okay, good. So we have time for one more question before we finish, and this one is about storage to Joey. What kind of storage is more cost effective? Hard drive on an NVR or SD card on the camera?
Yeah, good questions. We do the comparison. So when you do the comparison about the storage acquisition cost, that'll be the cost of the micro SD card versus NVR plus hard drive and installation efforts. So based on my calculations, the amount of the micro SD card will be a little bit cheaper than using on-site recorder together with hard drive, and of course you can reduce the installation efforts. If you need the additional information, I can share the details with Israel. You can share with the audience.
Okay, good. Thank you. So, gentlemen and dear audience, our time is up. Thank you all for joining us. It was a good experience for us to have you with us. If you have any questions and you'd like to get in touch with any of the speakers or with me, the contact details are on the screen, and we will also be sending you a recording of the webinar later on. And I hope you had an interesting session, and I'm looking forward to meeting everyone face-to-face one day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Everyone.
Bye.